Welcome to Celluloid Chronicles, a historical movie podcast. I'm Birdy, and I'm welcoming you today because I am going to do an outtake episode on Persuasion, our most recent episode. And I figured I'd jump right in as I didn't have a lot of extra outtakes that I couldn't put into the episode this time, which was really interesting. But I did want to give a little bit more background on one of the people I came across. Didn't exactly discover, I'd heard of them before, but that I came across while researching Lyme Regis. And that would be Mary Anning. She was a very interesting individual, and I figured that would be a fun little outtake just to give you something extra from this episode. All right, so Mary Anning was an English fossil collector, dealer, and paleontologist. She became known internationally for her discoveries in Jurassic marine fossil beds in the cliffs along the English Channel at Lyme Regis in the County of Dorset, southwest England. Mary was born in Lyme Regis on May 21st, 1799. Although her parents had 10 children, only Mary and her brother Joseph lived to adulthood. Legend actually tells that Mary had a lucky escape when she was a baby. A lady who was holding her was struck by lightning. I shouldn't laugh, but miraculously little Mary survived. While she was growing up, to give her life some context, George III was king. And during this time, there was an ongoing war between the British and Napoleon's French army, and it was raging on. And also at the same time that Jane Austen had just written Sense and Sensibility. So Jane Austen and Mary Anning were actually contemporary people. Mary's father, Richard, was a cabinet maker and amateur fossil collector. Mary's father didn't earn much in this job as a cabinet maker, so he boosted the family's earnings by looking for fossils, known as curiosities back then, at the beach and selling them to holiday makers, as Lyme Regis was a huge tourist destination at the time. Lyme Regis is actually especially rich in ammonites, which were called Amon's Horn back then, as well as belemnites, or devil's fingers. Young Mary and Joseph would join their father, and they both developed a deep love of fossil hunting. By the time Mary was 5 or 6, she was also her father's fossil collecting sidekick, an otherwise unfathomable activity for Georgian girls. Richard taught his daughter how to look for and clean the fossils they found on the beach, and often displayed and sold them from his shop. Like many women and girls in Lyme Regis at the time, Mary had little formal education. She was able to read, and she taught herself geology and anatomy. Unfortunately, Mary's father died suddenly in 1810 when she was only 11 from tuberculosis and other ongoing health issues. Joseph, Mary's brother, took up a post as the apprentice upholsterer, and their mother, Molly, encouraged Mary to help pay off the family's debts by selling her finds from the beach. Around 1811, Joseph found a strange-looking fossilized skull. Mary then searched for and painstakingly dug the outline of its 5.25-meter-long skeleton. By the time she was done, several months later, everyone in town knew that she had discovered what must have been a monster. Scientists thought it was a far-wandering crocodile. By this time, Georges Cuvier, known as the father of paleontology, had only recently introduced the theory of extinction. Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species would not be published for another 48 years. This mysterious specimen was studied and debated for years. It was eventually named Ichthyosaurus, or fish lizard, though we now know it was neither fish nor lizard, but a marine reptile. It lived 201 to 194 million years ago. In 1823, Mary continued to scour the beach and the crumbling cliffs of Lyme Regis with her dog, Trey. She was the first to discover the complete skeleton of a plesiosaurus, meaning near to reptile. So strange was the specimen, so quickly had the news spread that soon there were rumors that the fossil was a fake. Georges Cuvier himself disputed the find, and a special meeting was scheduled at the Geological Society of London, though Mary was not invited due to her possessing a nasty uterus. You know. After a lengthy debate, Cuvier admitted to his mistake. Shock. Male scientists who frequently bought the fossils Mary would uncover, clean, prepare, and identify often did not credit her discoveries in their scientific papers on the finds, even when writing about her groundbreaking ichthyosaurus find. I find this interesting because I'm sure part of this was excused because of that ladies should not be ambitious, quote unquote, bullshit, like how Jane Austen couldn't publish with her own damn name. And even the Geological Society of London refused to admit her as one of them. In fact, they didn't admit women until 1904. Again, this was in the early 1800s, so almost 100 years. In 1828, Mary uncovered a strange jumble of bones, this time with a long tail and wings. Once again, news of her discovery traveled fast. Scientists from London to Paris theorized on this unknown species of that most rare and curious of all reptiles. What she found were the first remains attributed to a Dimorphodon. It was the first pterosaur ever discovered outside of Germany. The name pterodactyl was coined later. Another of Mary's contributions to science, though arguably less glamorous, is that she pioneered the study of coprolites, or fossilized poo. Mary continued to unearth fossil after fossil. She still sold her many finds, which increasingly fueled public interest in geology and paleontology. Anning searched for fossils in the areas Blue Lias and Charmouth mudstone cliffs, particularly during the winter months when landslides exposed new fossils that had to be collected quickly before they were lost to the sea. Her observations played a key role in the discovery that coprolites, known as bezoar stones at the time, were fossilized feces, and she also discovered that belemnite fossils contained fossilized ink sacs like those of modern cephalopods. Her discoveries inspired famous geologists and her childhood friend, Henry de la Bouche, to paint Duria Antiqua, a more ancient Dorset, in 1830. This painting, the first widely circulated pictorial representation of a scene from prehistoric life, derived from the fossil reconstructions based largely on these fossils Anning had found, and Henry actually sold prints of it for her benefit to help her financial situation. Finally, 9 years before her death, she was finally given an annuity or annual payment raised by members of the British Association for the Advancement of Science and the Geological Society of London. She was the first honorary member of the new Dorset County Museum. Sadly, Mary died from breast cancer in 1847. She was only 47 years old and still in financial strain, despite a lifetime of extraordinary scientific discoveries. Her death was recorded by the Geological Society and her life commemorated by a stained glass window in St. Michael's Parish Church in Lyme. Her discoveries were some of the most significant geological finds of all time. They provided evidence that was central to the development of new ideas about the history of the Earth. Her opinions were sought, and she was acknowledged as an expert in many areas, including the rather unglamorous coprolites. She played a key role in informing the work of her learned male contemporaries, notably William Buckland, Henry de la Bouche, and William Conybeare. By the time of her death, geology was firmly established as its own scientific discipline. Mary's contribution had a major impact at a time when there was little to challenge the biblical interpretation of the story of creation and the flood. The spectacular marine reptiles that Mary unearthed shook the scientific community into looking at different explanations for changes in the natural world. Today, the Natural History Museum in London showcases several of Mary Anning's spectacular finds, including her ichthyosaur, plesiosaur, and pterosaur. Much like they did 2 centuries ago, her fossils continue to captivate visitors from around the world. And Mary Anning's legacy lives on along the rugged Jurassic coast, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, where scientists, amateurs, and adventurous children alike gather year-round to hunt for the next big find. I hope you enjoyed that. So some of the extra sources I used for this that I didn't have for our main episode was Mary, the Unsung Hero, and the Lyme Regis Museum's special page on the Mary Anning collection, and Nat Geo Kids with their general history article on Mary Anning. And those will be included in the Outtake show notes. So thank you for listening to Celluloid Chronicles, a historical movie podcast. Please like and subscribe to us wherever you listen, and we hope you join us again soon. And always remember, live like you're making history.